What's happening, fellas and ladies? DFS 5-pack here. We're going to have a long, spirited conversation about the first two game slate. Honestly, we'll see if it even plays out. We've had some pitching changes already kind of announced this morning. I think we got where we're supposed to be as of right now, but that might not even be 100%. We're assuming basketball doesn't play today and that baseball is a giant maybe.
I don't want to say I know the inner workings of any of this, but I do have a much better feeling about baseball than basketball. Baseball, I feel like, followed suit yesterday, but because of just the demographics of the NBA, it's more their issue, you know?
Oh, for sure. And again, that doesn't mean that baseball won't cancel games today, but I'm with you. Like the NBA announced, I know Woj said it last night, that today is unlikely to happen. DK doesn't have a contest up for a reason. So we'll just let that sleeping, lion lie for this point, and we'll see what happens. But we're guessing there's a decent chance baseball plays today, but we don't really know.
Yeah, agreed.
If anybody knows. So if you checked out the slate this morning, quick shout out over to Overlay. They don't have any contests up right now, guys, but give them a look-see, overlaydfs.com. We talk about them every day. They are the show sponsor. Give them a look if you have the opportunity. The name of the website's overlaydfs.com. But back over to DK. They did have Lamet versus Taiwan Walker up this morning, but it sounds like that we're finalizing Lamet versus Kikuchi because it was also possible that Garrett Richards was going to pitch the first game. And now that I think about it, that's a good reminder. This is a 7-inning game then.
Yep. And honestly, makes me like both pitchers from this game even more. I like, we talked about Lamet when we first tried to do this video. Sorry, my internet. And, there's always merit to fading a really chalky guy in tournaments, like on a 2-game slate like this, because on the off chance that he's off today, he's going to be incredibly high owned. However, I just think there's other ways I like to be different here. I'm going to pair Kikuchi and Lamet. Kikuchi's been much better than he was this year. And he struggled last start, but I think that was against the Dodgers. Listen, I like Kikuchi here, and I think he's fine for tournaments.
Weird stat line for him. Rocked 3 times and was absolutely brilliant against Oakland. So, for a GPP player like yourself, that kind of tells you a little bit about what he's been doing so far this year. That's a really good start to go 6 innings with 3 hits allowed and strike out 9 against a good team like Oakland, who's right-handed heavy. That's very impressive. Getting worked over by the Dodgers it happens to the best, right? Like they're a really, really good baseball team. No shame in that one. At Houston, that's not an easy place to go or anything like that. They have a lot of experience against you. So he's probably not my top second guy, but I get why you probably like him because I think most people want to use San Diego then.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I went a little too far in saying, I can't remember what I said. He's been a lot better this year than he's been last year. He was actually pretty good at the beginning of that Dodgers start. Fell apart for him pretty quickly. I'm not going to be surprised if the same thing happens here. For me, it's just what are the options, for someone who's a tournament player like myself? I could fade Lamet and just go hitting in this game. I don't think Kikuchi's a must, but I also don't think he's that much of a worse option than Chad, Kuhl, or Kim. And I think the ownership on those guys are going to be a lot higher.
Let's talk about Kim for a second. So most of you guys, us included, don't have a major book on him. He spent most of his career. He's, I think, 32, if I remember correctly. Oh, shit, it says it right there. Yeah, 32 years old. I went back and kind of looked him up this morning. He was a solid pitcher over in Korea. He's not a major strikeout guy. Hence the reason he has 10.2 innings pitched this year and only 4 Ks. You've got to be really good like he was last time out to score 21. So what do I expect out of Kim today against a really not good Pittsburgh Pirates team? I think 14 points plus or minus a few in there would be a good start for him, but it's not impossible to think he gets hit.
Not at all. Pittsburgh, everyone's got on their mind right now the Giolito hitter, and how could you not have that on your mind because, he was absolutely dominant in that start. Then they got worked over again yesterday during the day. The thing is, though, even in the past week, against Milwaukee, they played last weekend or I can't remember when Pittsburgh played Milwaukee recently in their last series before this. There were a couple chalky pitchers for Milwaukee that Pittsburgh really hit around there. So I think Kim falls in line with all those Milwaukee starters personally.
Sure. All these really kind of middle of the road type of fellas that, have good days and bad days.
Yeah. Except for Woodruff.
Yeah. Woodruff's a pretty solid guy. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm definitely going to use Lamet.
Like,
And then I'm a little torn between the other three pitchers. And the conversation, the argument for all of them is realistic. Um, and none of them are, for Kim to go over 20 last time is really tough to do. None of these guys are slate breakers, which is a nice thing, I guess.
so you got to assume the chalk build is going to be Lamet, Kim, and then the offense is from St. Louis and San Diego. Because
Yeah.
Kim is coming off that great start and he's facing Pittsburgh. So I imagine that he's going to get a ton of love. Now, I will say about Kikuchi, like I like Kikuchi here as a second option because I think he comes in way lower owned, and there's only three options, and none of them are that great, like you talked about. However, like my top bet on the slate is probably Machado.
Yeah. Machado is scorching hot right now, like a little bit under the radar as well.
I mean, he hasn't. Look at the strikeouts.
And this guy has 8+ in 9 of 10, and then double digits in 7 straight.
Like big double digits too. Like he is looking like the guy that they wanted when they signed him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason they paid him $19 billion or whatever the contract was for, and he's been mostly a letdown. There's still some home runs in there, but I don't know what his batting average was last year, but I think it was like 250 or less. It wasn't good.
Even before this stretch, he was hitting like literally, I think 200 or a little bit lower.
So I'm with you. That was my top overall bat as well. And honestly, the other guy that really interested me from San Diego was Will Myers, who has been destroying left-handed pitching this year. Absolutely killing it. And he's pretty good and affordable.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Small sample size, but he's got a 1452 OPS off of lefties this year, and he's always been a pretty good hitter against lefties. 8 extra base hits and 30 at-bats. Again, it's a small sample size, but we have more of a career from him where he's always been a good hitter against lefties.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, you can use Kikuchi and use 2 pieces of San Diego. Hell, you could throw Tatis in there and hope he, grabs a single and a stolen base, because honestly, it's not realistic that any of these pitchers outside of Lamet can ruin the slate. Like Chad Kuhl is a very mediocre pitcher who strikes out about 6 or 7 guys per inning. A good start for him. He's coming off 3 straight double-digit starts. I don't know if he's probably rarely done that in his career.
Yeah, agreed. And St. Louis got going late last night. So I definitely could get on board with the Cardinals bats against school here.
I will small. Okay, I was going to say for Cardinals bats, one thing for tournaments I love the idea of is fading Colton Wong, because he's been incredibly popular. So on a 2-game slate like this, batting leadoff, you have to expect he's going to be popular again. Now, he's drawn some walks lately, but I mean, he's got every opportunity to, grab you 3 points today. And if you could get like another second baseman to give you 8 or 9, that could be a huge bump up on a small slate like this, because I assume he'll be overwhelming chalk again.
Yeah, he will be. In cash games, I think you just got to lock him in, though.
Sure, but in tournaments, which is I know what you play, I'm all about taking a look at somebody else.
For sure.
Cronenworth, for example, who's averaging 2 extra fantasy points per game this year, has 3 more home runs, is batting 100 points higher or whatever it is, and it's been pretty good off of lefties all year. Like, he's $100 less. So I like switching it up in a tournament type of format like that.
I will say the only thing about Wong is like now not as cheap as he's been, and their other Cardinals are now like a lot cheaper than him. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, second base is also really ugly, so I just don't know where other people would go. Like, you look at the next couple of second basemen down. Like, you're not going to use probably Frazier against Kim. Newman is day-to-day. We don't even know if he's in there. And then if you look at the rest of these second basemen, like a lot of them, I mean, these are virtual unknowns to most people.
Yeah, second base actually really sucks here. Good point. Wong's going to be – so it's Cronenworth, though. All the guys you mentioned are going to be really popular.
Yeah, but I think people will take a look at the guy batting leadoff, and he's a lefty versus a righty, as opposed to a guy batting like 7th, lefty on lefty. And I think Wong will have multiple times more ownership than Cronenworth, would be my guess.
Not sure I agree with that. I think San Diego is the most popular offense on the board, and he's got dual position eligibility.
Okay. I guess we will waive that one out. That being said, I don't know if there's even any other guys on second base that are going to be in the lineup today.
Yeah, so you're right. Both those guys are going to carry massive ownership. Cash gains up blocking Wong. I think Wong's probably like, 80% owned, and Cronenworth is like 60% owned.
Okay, because you think you get some love at shortstop. Although I do think people will try their best to get Tatis in there, but at 6K, that's really hard to do.
It is, and like, again, it's not like shortstop's loaded either, because the only other drop-down option is Crawford, and people won't want to play him against Lamet. So he's the drop-down option, second base and shortstop. I'm not
That makes sense.
saying that he'll get more love than Wong or even the same love. I just think like they're both going to get love because there just aren't other options.
Yeah, and using a guy like Crawford who can steal bases, perhaps, against Lamet. I mean, you can one off somebody against Lamet just as like trying to be different.
He also runs too, which is the perfect. What a guy that steals bases is the exact type of guy you want to one off.
Agreed. Okay. Kind of going through each position. I mean, at catcher, I think you pay down, or I'm assuming Yadier Molina hasn't taken a day off in 33 years, so I'm assuming he'll be in the lineup today.
He looks skinny too. I don't know if it's like Corona, but remember he used to be like chubby.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming his advanced age. Maybe it was an idea to lose some weight to take some pressure off his knees.
Quite possibly. I mean, he walked up to bat yesterday, and I was like, did a double take. I mean, I couldn't believe it was him. He's like so thin.
Yeah, I just heard this. He's now only the third slowest player in baseball.
What, Miguel Cabrera and Pujols?
Yeah, probably. I would love to watch that foot race. I would feel really cool right now in a foot race against Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, and Yadier Molina because I'd probably win. And it'd be like, see, I'm faster than 3 professional athletes.
It's funny because like the thing about Pujols, and this is another reason, like it's tough to watch him. When he runs, it looks like he's like waddling, and it just looks so pathetic.
Yeah, Father Time has not been kind to him.
No. Yeah, every position's pretty weak here. And the funny thing is, like, a lot of the top one-offs are the Seattle guys because they've been hitting the best. Like Austin Nola has been really good, and Kyle Lewis. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I roster Austin Nola a lot because until recently, he's been very affordable hits in the middle of the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And been very good.
Yeah, very good.
He's not a true catcher in the essence that, like, he's more of a hitter, and he's very rosterable. At 4,500 today, he ain't making my lineup. I would assume that Molina would get a lot of love just as the one name on here, and then, a variety of paydown options wherever it comes from.
Like whoever San Diego's catcher is will be the most popular, whether it's Hedges or Torrens, because Mejia's hurt. Torrens is cheaper. Maybe he's more expensive. I'm not sure.
And the same thing goes for Kim. I'm agree with you. I would expect him to be the second most popular pitcher, but I got no problems playing Jacob Stallings if he's in the lineup. He's been rock solid this year. 3 multi-hits over the games over the past week.
I could definitely get on board with like Lamet, Cool, and Pittsburgh too. Like
sure.
Because the other thing is, and I know this is a point that you'll definitely get on board with, like Pittsburgh is not good offensively, and they're not going to hit a lot of home runs, and they're not going to score like 10 or 12 runs every day. But on this slate, you don't need that because all you need is for them to outscore the like 1 or 2 other teams,
I mean, they had some nice offensive performances against my Brewers this weekend. We all remember what they did to Desclafani a couple weeks ago. I mean, they are professional baseball players. Now, they're not great professional baseball players, but they are professional baseball players nonetheless.
I'm just not sure Kim, as you've talked about, deserves to get the love that I think he's going to get today.
Yeah, and I think we would all agree it's a byproduct to him coming off of a good start against a bad team.
Exactly. So, yeah, maybe that's just the spot to go to is Pittsburgh's also. So the other thing that sucks about this slate is Pittsburgh's pretty cheap, and you don't really have a place to spend up on pitching.
Oh, yeah, and I completely forgot. As we're thinking about this one, these are both doubleheaders.
Oh, interesting. So I guess it doesn't matter about, kind of interesting. That's funky.
Yeah, it is. We got 2 7-inning games, which, I mean, that just makes a guy like Machado even a better play because they're playing on even ground, and he's the hottest hitter in baseball and probably the second best hitter on the slate today. Unless maybe you want to make the argument for Goldschmidt. I guess I would Machado and Goldschmidt are kind of birds of a feather right now. Very good a couple of years ago, but had a rough season or two.
I was like, who's the first? And then obviously Tatis. But
yeah, the greatest hitter that's ever walked the face of the earth.
I might be byproduct, like recency bias, and Goldschmidt just missed a 3-run homer last night. But I mean, I'll take Machado all day over Goldschmidt. And I respect Goldschmidt. And 3 years ago, Goldschmidt's peak, maybe I'm gonna say not so fast on that. I don't think
very close.
It is very close. They're so different, but they're the same. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, these are guys that, it's not been the best calendar year of their career by any stretch, or maybe a little bit more than that, but both MVP candidates, solidly over time. It is a really close one. It's a good question. It doesn't really matter on this point, I guess, for this slate, but that just makes Machado an even easier roster, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the outfield real quick, just to kind of talk it over.
This about the 7-inning games, I've been really liking the bottom of St. Louis's lineup, and I still like them today. But man, in a 7-inning game, it's tougher because assuming that St. Louis, obviously they're winning here if you're stacking them, they only get 5 at bat. They're only 5 innings of at bats, 6 innings.
Yeah, it does make it tough. The one guy I would bring up, I know we mentioned him the other day. He had a nice game for us, had a bunch of nice games recently. I'm not really looking to go and stack against Lamet and try to be different that way, but, this is something we mention a lot on these smaller slates. Pick one guy against your pitchers. Kyle Lewis is having a phenomenal year, under the radar, MVP caliber type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, you don't play these tournaments, but, those big tournaments where they're really top heavy, that's where, if you want to use a couple Seattle bats, do it. I mean, you're probably throwing your money away, but that's how you have to get to the mountaintop on slates like this sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we're Lewis guys. Yeah, and that's Haggerty kid, switch hitter, everything like that. He can run a little bit as well. He's cheap. That could be another one-off. Again, a single, a stolen base, and then maybe a walk later in the game for 10 points is not a monster day. But on a slate like this, where there aren't a lot of guys that are set up to break the slate offensively, that's a perfectly fine, payoff.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at Seattle right now, man, they are actually playing well. The other team that's playing well under the radar is San Francisco.
Seattle's winners of 4 straight.
Yeah, they're playing well. I think San Francisco's won 7 straight also.
Correct. Yes, you are almost 500 again.
That's pretty. I would never have thought that, huh?
And then I was looking at the standings last night. I've been so fully engaged in basketball. I don't feel as up to date on baseball as I would in a normal season where we don't have the 2 sports running simultaneously. But knowing that the Angels still put up a lot of runs, but seeing them 12 games under 500 already, it's just when is Mike Trout going to play for a team with some pitching?
I look at the standings, not every day, but I was looking at them yesterday. That stands out by far more than anything else, how bad the Angels are, right? I mean, they're on the same level as the Pirates. It's bizarre how bad they are.
I like this, and I think you told this to me a couple of years ago, and I can't agree with it anymore. Star players in basketball make it go, and star quarterbacks, but really after that, it's not about the player. And Mike Trout is, we both agree, the best player in baseball, has been for a while. It doesn't translate towards winning.
No, it's not saying that so it's weird because it's not like he takes away from winning, but
no, one guy just doesn't make that big of an influence, no matter who it is.
No matter who it is, the pitcher in baseball is by far the biggest.
Sure, you can have Max Scherzer on your team, but if the rest of your team around you stinks, you're still not going anywhere.
Truth.
For that one day, he matters a lot. But then there's 4 more days where he has nothing to do with how much winning your team does.
You get 2 Max Scherzers, all of a sudden you're onto something, though.
Right. Coaches make the biggest difference in the NFL. Yeah. Executives and GMs in baseball, and then players in basketball.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it's so true. I know I heard someone else say that whenever I said that to you, and you really think about it. I mean, it's so true. Basketball's obviously, the star player is everything there. And we've talked about baseball. You look at teams like the teams we like, Tampa, that just continue to be good because they have good executives and they just continue to put out a good product.
True story. Okay. We've kind of talked this one in circles a little bit. We agree that for pitching, the most likely build most people use are going to be Lamet.
Kim, definitely that you can leave money on the table too. Tournaments.
Sure. You can. What I would say, though, is shortstop is so weak, I would just assume spin up on Tatis, even if I was playing the lefty, because there's not a ton of options. Although, you know what? Using a guy like DeYoung who can homer, not a bad idea. It's kind of to switch it up.
Yeah, I mean, you get the point. Like, listen, the optimal build, you're not going to leave money on the table, and you're going to use Tatis, but in tournaments, you don't have to do that.
Yes. The only thing about, I know, like you're talking about playing Kikuchi, is, my God, do the rest of these offenses just not nearly as good as San Diego's.
It's just so true.
Like, St. Louis's offense leaves so much to be desired.
Yes. So, I mean, yeah, San Diego, pitching-wise and offensively, are, like, stand out today.
There might be some no-names in the lineup for St. Louis today, guys, because Dexter Fowler decided he wasn't going to play. Harrison Bader's day-to-day. We might get some weird guys that we don't really know much about.
Bader,
like Heredia.
Well, he plays for Pittsburgh, but Bader pinch ran last night, so I'm hoping that he plays today. But again, we don't know.
Yeah. So you might, and because they're all double headers too, like you might see some real interesting lineups today.
For sure, man. You talked about like Molina not being out. He's going to be out one of these games probably, unless he's DHing. So.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a catcher that would catch a doubleheader, it's him, even at his advanced age. But you have to assume he's not catching one of those games.
Done because.
What was that? We cut out for a second.
Yeah, that was so weird. So let's say we get a couple weird lineups and like Molina's out, and San Diego's got a couple like really cheap guys that they throw in there sometimes. It might even be like a cash game and leaving money on the table. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like they give Tatis a day off or something, you know? Olivares is who I'm really talking about because none of these guys are that good, but like sometimes they're in their lineup against their platoon. So not him though, because he was optioned.
Okay. If we're doing cash, let's just do a cash lineup build real quickly. I think for me, again, we probably agreed. Lamet is, you just get him in your cash lineup 100%. And then Kim sounds like he's probably the chalky SP2. And I would agree that in this situation, I probably want to ride the chalk, knowing that I don't love Kim or Cool. And I don't really want to pick on San Diego in my cash game. So I think this is where you start. And then for me, offensively, I start with Machado and Will Myers, assuming they're in the lineup.
He's in there personally. I think he's too risky to fade here.
He is. Just, yeah, okay, fine. Start with these three.
I mean,
you can definitely make this happen. You're going to get some cheap guys to make this happen.
Like Colton Wong, even in cash, fits right in here, you know?
Sure.
He makes sense in cash games.
Just on the fact he's going to be massive chalk. He's not a great fantasy player, but when your other options are almost non-existent, right?
Yeah, in cash games, he just makes all the. In cash games, you're trying to be risk averse. So on the off chance that he walks twice and steals 2 bases, you're going to need him.
This is true. And you can still easily make your lineup based on this. You got Wong, Machado, Tatis, Will Myers. I think that's a great place to get started.
Yes. There's also yeah, for sure.
Ty France is probably your first baseman then.
Why not?
I would assume he'd be in the lineup against a lefty today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
would you think that because it's a doubleheader, Hosmer will be out of the lineup?
No, I think Hosmer will be in also. Okay. I think they'll play both.
Now, depending on the lineup and how it's situated, and it's going to be lefty on lefty, that would maybe drive a little bit more ownership up for France. And if you want to be different right there, maybe playing Hosmer. It's not like he'll be unowned or anything like that, but might be a little less ownership than if it was the other way around.
The other guy, you're not using Kim thinking he's throwing a complete game shutout. I'm fine with a Jose Osuna at 2,600. We'll probably be in the middle of this Pittsburgh lineup. It's lefties well. 2,600.
Yeah, you're probably not looking to use a Miles Turner. Josh Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So their games remind me like they look alike. So yeah, Ozuna at 2,600 looks like a real good value. I mean, that makes rostering Tatis pretty easy, especially because you can put him in the outfield.
Sure. I mean, you also really don't need it, especially if you play down at catcher. Like you're just, I mean, we already got Tatis, Wong, Machado. I mean, there's no other high price guys. Yeah, Tatis is going to be even more owned than I originally
Right.
thought. Just thinking about how easy it is to play him.
This build's going to be so chalky.
All right, Trent Grisham, if he's batting leadoff, I mean, he's easy to play, and they can still go get Molina right here too if he's in the middle of the lineup, and play basically anybody you want.
Yes.
I mean, this is the cash game build. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we got too many Padres now.
I think Grisham will be at the bottom of the lineup.
Okay, so take him out of there then.
I like the profile though.
Yeah, Profar's in there. He did us real well in a day slate last week or 2 weeks ago when we brought him up. I don't know. You're going to basically get whoever you want. Yeah. So with both games being double headers, I mean, you want as much San Diego as you can get in cash games, and then just like I think your point was, go Lamet, and then you're going to use the other guy, Kikuchi, and use offense from the other game.
Like I could see using Lamet and Cool, and using like San Diego and Pittsburgh.
I'm on board with that.
You know, like listen, St. Louis is better than Pittsburgh, but I think Cool is probably better than Kim. I mean, they're probably very comparable, to be honest.
It's hard to say, right? We have our book on Kim at the Major League Baseball level is 10 innings. It's really difficult to know who he is.
And it's hard to take numbers from the KBO and bring them over here. It's a different league. Like it's not as good as the majors. It's just not.
Right. He was solid over there, and he had a nice start against Cincinnati, but it's not the pros, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not the pros. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets hit around today.
Right. He's not a 22-year-old prospect either. This is a 32-year-old veteran who just happened to be good enough over there to be like, hey, let's give you a whirl as a guy who can eat some innings. But nobody's talking about this guy lighting the world on fire like when Hideo Nomo came over.
No, that's very true.
So there's a reason he's not coming over until he's, a few years away from retirement.
Truth.
So, again, Chad Kuhl is another one of these guys. He's had a nice start to the year. But he's about as mediocre of a pitcher as there can be out there, right? Like he has some days where he looks good, some days where he looks bad, and then a whole bunch of he went 5 innings today and gave up 3 runs.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that start at Cincinnati is a lot of who Chad Kuhl is. It's kind of a baseline. Maybe a little high on the strikeouts because he is more of like a 4 strikeout per game guy.
Yeah, but usually he doesn't give up 2 home runs per game. So,
right, I was more thinking like the 3 runs over 5.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you.
And there's a really good opportunity that all 3 of these secondary pitchers today are all very blah, get you between 8 and 15 points, and it's not a huge deal on who helps you win.
I'm with it.
Very, very boring. So load up on San Diego in your cash games. That should be a lot of common sense right there. I'm sure most of you guys got there on your own. We expect Kim to be the highest owned secondary pitcher. People to basically ignore Pittsburgh. So, I can get on board with the Pittsburgh stack only because, they're terrible, but, that'd be nice leverage.
Yeah, it'd be nice leverage. And we talked about it. They just need to be better than, St. Louis and like, St. Louis and Seattle. So it's not, if you use San Diego with them, or they need to be, San Diego could have an off day. It's baseball.
Right. They're not good. And it's embarrassing that they did this to my Brewers after your Indians swept them, but they did score 5, 12, and 7 runs over the weekend. Exactly. Look pathetic against the White Sox. Look pathetic against your Indians, but your Indians have really good pitching, so that's not a surprise.
One other thing, they're on the road here, so if they do go off, they get that extra bat. Like their upside's higher just in that regard alone.
That's a great point. In a small day like this, like San Diego is set up to win this game really easily. I'm sure they would be heavy favorites if you looked at the odds. They're only getting up 6 times more than likely.
Exactly. Pittsburgh is batting 7 times no matter what. And you know what? That's the same point with Seattle on big tournaments.
Sure. And like we're saying, Lamet's been awesome this year. Hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in a single start. So you don't really look to stack against him. But, he has given up a home run 3 games in a row. Take a chance on the Kyle Lewis.
For sure.
Or the other guys that we mentioned, Crawford, Haggerty, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it at all.
As far as Pittsburgh bats go, honestly, they got a bunch of guys day to day. It's a doubleheader in the middle of the day. You're just gonna have to wait for their lineup to come out.
Agreed. It's just all it is.
I don't know what's in there, and Taijuan Walker has been traded to the Blue Jays.
Interesting.
Clayton Kershaw to start for the Dodgers. Man, the Reds drop their lineups early, don't they?
It's awesome.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's the best of what we got for now.
That's all I got.